With Manchester United's home defeat at Old Trafford against Spurs, no surprise, it's Ten Hag and Bruno Fernandes on the back pages, minging in the rain, another day to forget. Ten Hag, though, says, I don't fear the sack. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we? Mario is with us, as is Nedum. Nedum's not in his lederhosen. That's disappointing. No. I lose that bet. Mark Ogden is here. We'll start with Oggy. He's a dead man walking, isn't he, Oggy? That'll be it. International break, he'll be out.
Well, that's the obvious way of looking at it. I think you're probably right. I think he's got 2 games this week, Porto away, Aston Villa away. Both very tough games. He needs I think we've gone past the point now where performances make a difference. It's about wins. He has to win games. But obviously the public noise coming out of the club is that nothing has changed, business as usual. But I think privately they're looking at options. The situation is United wanting to succeed because the financial aspects of getting rid of Ten Hag is high. You know, they have to pay his compensation. They have to bring somebody else in. And if they bring somebody else in, it's pretty obvious that whoever comes in would not want Anthony, would probably not be that keen on Joshua Zirkzee, might be not keen on Rasmus Højlund. So all of a sudden, there's £200 million worth of player there that the new manager might not use. So they're desperate for Ten Hag to succeed. But I think they're getting to the point now where, unless he has a miraculous win at Aston Villa at the weekend, he is a dead man walking. And I'd imagine by this time next week, then I think we're talking about Erik Ten Hag in the past tense at Man United.
So what does it look like? Maybe Van Nistelrooy coming in as an interim, Mark, taking over till the end of the season and they readdress what's going on? Financially, that wouldn't kill them, would it?
I think Van Nistelrooy would be an interim for a short-term basis. I don't think he'd be the guy until the end of the season. Look, when Van Nistelrooy came in during the summer, it was obvious that he was there as a kind of almost a, you know, just sitting there in case something happened. Because last season, when it was going really bad for Ten Hag, there was nobody at the club who could have stepped up. Nobody credible anyway. So Van Nistelrooy has that, even though he's only had a year in management in Holland with PSV. But I don't think that they would install Van Nistelrooy and say, right, he's yours to the end of the season. I think they keep him in place until they can get a manager in. Now, obviously, there are managers right now that are available. We know that Gareth Southgate is on the list. We know that Thomas Tuchel's available. We know that Graham Potter's available. Graham Potter's been busy doing some media rounds in the last couple of days, so he's trying to push his kind of availability to any interested clubs. I don't think Potter's up to the job at Man United, but he's available. So there are managers that are managing at the top level that could take a job next week if needed. But each of those managers has issues that wouldn't, quite fit with the job. Southgate, Tuchel and Potter. So they might want to play the long game, but I don't think Van Nistelrooy would come in and wait until the summer because, United need to get back in the Champions League. They need a coach who's got a proven track record, and Van Nistelrooy hasn't got that.
Yeah, but what a depressing list that is, Mark, when you look at it. Crikey. Tuchel interviewed in the summer, went, no, we'll stick with Ten Hag. Gareth Southgate, we know the issues that he brings with us, and the rest are forgettable.
Absolutely. Listen, Graham Potter, for me, he failed at Chelsea. I don't think he's got the personality for the job. I don't think he's big enough for the job in terms of his presence and his track record. So I think we should discount him. But Dan Ashworth, who worked with him at Brighton, is at Man United. So we have to factor in Graham Potter's history with one of the senior executives at Man United. Gareth Southgate is a winner, isn't he? Almost. He's close to being a winner. He's kind of, he made England the most successful team they've had for nearly 60 years. No, listen, Gareth Southgate has got good relationships with, again, Dan Ashworth from the FA, Dave Brailsford, who he knows very well from Ineos. One of Gareth Southgate's closest, let's say, friends, advisors, is very, very close to Ineos as well. So, connect the dots and Gareth Southgate would work. Ineos wants somebody who would fit into their structure, I guess, their blueprint. And Southgate is perfect for that, apart from the fact he's not a top-level Champions League, Premier League manager. Thomas Tuchel is. Thomas Tuchel, for me, would be the perfect coach for Man United. He's got a charisma, he's got a presence. They need a personality now. What has happened with Ten Hag, apart from the fact that he's not up to it as a coach, he hasn't got the personality. And, you look at Man United's success under Sir Alex Ferguson, he was a big personality. Now, nobody's going to replicate that, but the people that have come in since, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Van Gaal was yesterday's man. Jose Mourinho was burnt out by the time he got to United. Solskjaer wasn't a personality. They need somebody on the touchline who the players can look to and think, something, that guy's done it, he's been there, he's done it, he's on my side. And I think Tuchel's problem is that he can't manage upwards. He can manage the team, but he can't manage upwards.
Haven't they rejected him once already, Mark?
No, I think it was more a case of Tuchel was not keen on the structure that he was being sold at Man United. He was never offered the job, but I'd imagine there were reservations at United because Ineos will want somebody that would fall, like I said, it will fall into their way of thinking. Tuchel probably wouldn't do that. Tuchel was challenging with Chelsea's owners. He lasted 5 minutes with the new regime at Chelsea. But what was sold to Thomas Tuchel, if he became the Man United manager, was the situation whereby, look, you've got a structure above you with Dan Ashworth, with Omar Barara, the CEO, with Jason Wilcox, the technical director, and then above them, you've got Dave Brailsford, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Joel Glazer. So there's a kind of a labyrinthine kind of structure ahead of him, and Tuchel wanted a bit more streamlined, structure. Yeah. He's just had a situation at Chelsea whereby people have come in that don't really know what they're doing. Does he want to do that again in Man United? But that was 6 months ago nearly. Thomas Tuchel hasn't got a job yet. And I think, all managers have an ego, and some have bigger egos than others. And Thomas Tuchel might think, I could be the guy finally to turn Man United around. So it will appeal to his ego. And what else is out there? What else is keeping Thomas Tuchel from taking the Man United job right now? Nothing.
To quote the title of this pod, this is Manchester United. Yeah. You take a look at those managers, Real Madrid, Barcelona, but no one is touching any of those, with the exception of Thomas Tuchel, who they've already interviewed, but didn't really like the structure, which is still the same that it's going to be if he even comes over now.
Well, because they're all coming up with the same answer, that as good as they think they are as coaches and individuals, and they think they could take Manchester United forward, what they've presented in front of them, they realise that I can't be successful with this. I can't be successful with the players that I've got because the players are not good enough, and I can't be successful because it doesn't look as though I'm going to have that much of a say in the changes that are going to be made. So they're all rejecting it. That's basically it in a nutshell.
But given that list, Ali, Thomas Tuchel should be on that list on his own, really, compared to what the rest have achieved. However you want to sell Gareth Southgate. Just remind us why it went so badly wrong at Bayern and why it would be different at Manchester United.
Because handling the inner workings of the relationships in a club was an issue for Thomas Tuchel.
But that's fine at United because there's no one really there interfering.
And the fact that there was always somebody above Thomas Tuchel or behind Thomas Tuchel saying, maybe this player, maybe that player, he should be playing, he shouldn't be playing. All of those things were going on at Bayern Munich. All the while, Thomas Tuchel is saying, but the guys that we have here are not good enough, and we need to go get players. See, you find Palhinha at Bayern Munich now, yeah? It happened this past summer. Thomas Tuchel was asking for him last winter, right? And they didn't bring him at that point. And whatever, and that's just one example of the many things that went on at Bayern Munich. But at the very core of his failure at Bayern Munich was the fact that from the moment he got to Bayern Munich, there were inner workings in the club that were pushing Thomas Tuchel into a direction that he didn't want to go, and he was pushing back. And that never worked. And so if indeed that was the case at Bayern Munich, a team that I think we can all agree is better structured than Manchester United and has more talent available than Manchester United, didn't quite work out there, what makes you believe that if you just continue the path of this trajectory, what makes you believe that it would be better at Manchester United? I don't think it would.
Of course, this isn't all about Ten Hag. It's about the recruitment, and it's also about the players, Naden, who yesterday looked like they didn't care.
Well, those are your words, obviously. I think perhaps they did care a little bit, but the performance just wasn't there at all. I think even before the red card to Bruno Fernandes, they were significantly beaten. I thought Spurs ran all over them. They were running with the ball, without the ball. They were more dynamic. They seemed to understand their structure better. And for United, one thing which, we saw, say, last week when we were debating Arsenal is a team that can park a bus. United have no bus to park. So as soon as they went down to 10, you're wondering, well, how many goals will Spurs score? Obviously, United had a bit of a go in the second half as such, but to be so resoundingly beaten by a team who most people would say aren't going to be challenging for a Premier League title this year, are unlikely to be, well, maybe they'll be in the run-in for the Champions League, who knows? United was so resoundingly beaten at home that it did raise some significant questions. The nature of some of those goals, from the way they started, the way the second half started, it was a real mess. And I know recency bias would say this is the worst performance, but I remember last year in the FL Cup when they lost 3-0 at home to Newcastle, to a Newcastle side who were just trying to make sure that players finished the game healthy. I think there have been some really bad games on Erik ten Hag's record, and this is definitely one of them. And the fact it was a primetime game says a lot, because this was a game where they would really like to test themselves. And with the players that they brought in this summer, to limp through the game the way that they did, unfortunately, you've just got to call it pathetic.
It was the...
Can I just jump in?
Of course.
You know the word you used, care?
Yeah.
It's interesting because Nathan said they do care. The problem is they don't care from start to finish. different spells in the game, you could see that it meant something, particularly when they went down to 10.
Right.
You could see they cared. But it's too late. You can't get away with every... You know, a situation happens and they're like, all right, I'm going to show... That's not how it works. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be clued in and care from the minute that whistle goes till the minute it stops.
So is that all on Ten Hag?
Absolutely.
These are professional international players. They don't need Ten Hag going, this is a big game, by the way, I need you to care from the start. They should have professional pride, shouldn't they?
He doesn't. He's the one that creates the culture where that happens. And he clearly hasn't. You know, the goals and... I mean, the performance in general, with people not stepping up when they need to, when the bell goes and when the question's asked. You know, the first goal is a great example.
They try to outsmart the opponent and then being the team that's being outsmarted by the opponent instead of they handling the situation. And I think that becomes, even the substitutions that come on to change the game, it does not work for them. It's just, I think at the moment now, you understand, what is really happening is that he has invested in the team. That's one of the key things. You know, like I've heard him say like, oh, I didn't invest that much, or they didn't back me as much as I would like it to be. But now he cannot use that point anymore because clearly they stood behind him. And now the question came, the same that I said at the end of the season, if they still believe in his structure, they keep him on. They did. And then they brought Van Nistelrooy in. Van Nistelrooy they brought in. I think the reason why they brought him in is because sometimes you need a certain figure in front of the group to make sure the group listens, or at least you can get there. You know, like when the moment is hard for the coach, you need a person in front of the group that everybody will go, like when he gets upset or when he speaks, at least we respect him. And I think the moment is going more to Van Nistelrooy than Ten Hag.
Do you think Van Nistelrooy will be the next coach, and do you think there's a possibility that could work, Mario?
I don't think so. Why? Because I don't think that they would do that like that, and I don't think Ruud would like it to be like that, because I think maybe if they would have told him that in advance and said to him like, come here and then you're gonna get the job, that could be an option. But if that's not the case, I don't see Ruud quickly going and take that job, because I think Ten Hag, you know, sometimes, I mean, football is funny. The loyalty doesn't always speak, but I think he might be a little bit more loyal because Dutch guys together brings him in. I don't think he might want to take that job and say like, let me just slow down a little bit and see how this works out for whoever is coming next.
What if he takes his glasses off? You're like, oh, there it is. We didn't know he was here. Naden?
Yeah, so the point I wanted to make, in regards to that game, the first goal scored by Johnson, I think one thing that we say with football is that it changes all the time. Sort of philosophies about playing out from the back, being more direct and so on. But one thing that probably links everybody that's played the game before is the importance of starting well. And there'll be so many like similarities between, say, a game today and a game 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like at the start of the game, you try to sort of set yourself up. Maybe it's a bit more physical at the start of a game. Maybe it's a case of putting a tackle in. But you do not give a single yard. So to look back at that goal, if somebody told you that was like the 60th minute of the game, be like, oh, well, you know, the game was really open. But some of those decisions that they made throughout that goal, honestly, as bad as it comes. And Dalot, like, he put his hand up to apologise. He was running back as if he was tired. It's 3 minutes into the game. But unfortunately, you know, this is for United, something that's happened many times before. But the point, as I say, I wanted to make is that football has changed, but certain things are always the same. And that start there is unacceptable. And you'd like to think that somebody on the pitch or the manager on the sideline would say that. Sometimes maybe disrupt it, make some changes, make sure the players know that what they're doing is unacceptable. But instead, unfortunately, for Ten Hag at times, he lets it go, and he trusts his players. But apparently he trusts them for no reason in moments like that.
Just to back and head them up there. In the 80s, that's exactly what Joe Fagan would say.
Right, your former Liverpool manager.
He would say it all the time. Start fast, and then if you need to, then you can slow it down.
Right.
Not the opposite way around.
No. Meanwhile, Bruno Fernandes, of course, was sent off in the debacle at Old Trafford. This is what he had to say about the red card. I didn't go with the studs. It's never a red. Even James Maddison.
Must have been a yellow then.
When he gets up, he said it's not a red card. It is a foul. There is not much contact. If the referee wants to give me a yellow, I agree. I don't understand why VAR doesn't call him. Mark Ogden, this is your last chance to speak before we let you go. Would you like to say anything that you've heard the boys discuss or contribute?
Well, just on the point of Bruno Fernandes, him being suspended might actually do United a favour, because he doesn't contribute anything defensively. And I think at times he plays like a 10-year-old in the playground. It's like his ball and his game, and that is it. He doesn't help the team. And I think part of the reason why the midfield is so exposed and the defence is exposed is because Bruno Fernandes is often, 30, 40 yards upfield, waving at his teammates, asking them to run back when he's actually stood there not running back. So I don't think they'll miss him. I think him being out might actually be the thing that could actually save Ten Hag. I don't think it will. I think they'll lose anyway. But I think without him, they'll be more solid. I think they'll have a player in his place who will contribute more defensively and not be so reckless going forward. So I don't think they'll miss him. I think people have kind of begun to cut on to the fact that Bruno Fernandes is at times more of a hindrance than a help to Man United.